Hey, what's up? So Kamala Harris is the heir apparent to old Sleepy Joe. So I thought it'd be incumbent upon me to do a video about her, since I'd bet good money hardly anyone knows much about her past. Now, the spin doctors of the deep state are going to try to package and present her as some kind of a progressive black woman. You know, I am woman, hear me roar. Probably not so radical as old Sleepy Joe's administration's been, but will she be? Let's take a look. She's a quarter white, a quarter black, and half East Indian. She grew up in an affluent family. Her mother was a breast cancer researcher, and her father was an economist and professor. And when she was a child, she attended a French-speaking elementary school in Canada. Now, keeping that in mind, let's just take a look at what she said about her childhood here.
This is a week when most students in our country go back to school. And it occurs to me that many years ago, right around this time, I was starting kindergarten. And I was in a school bus, on my way to Thousand Oaks Elementary School as part of the second class of students as busing desegregated Berkeley, California public schools.
Now, I looked it up, and Berkeley didn't desegregate for 2 more years after she was in kindergarten. But that's kind of irrelevant because she was up in Canada speaking parlez-vous français. So what does that say about her to just lie like that? I mean, most politicians lie to some extent, but my God, that's pretty much in your face, blatant. Also, she's a descendant from an owner of 120 plus slaves who ran a plantation in Jamaica and actively, militantly fought against the abolition of the slave trade. Now, I don't really think you should hold that against her, because that's not her. Her granddaddy, great-granddaddy, whatever, isn't her. But, you know, to go around touting yourself as being some kind of a great black woman, I think that does put a fly in the buttermilk, I think. I mean, you know, my great-great-grandfather owned some slaves, owned 10, and my wife's great-great-grandfather had a whole plantation with hundreds. But, you know, we don't go around touting ourselves as being some kind of great minority. So anyway, let's continue.
And you got Queenla Imhoff in there. You know who Imhoff is?
No.
Yes, you do.
Who?
Mrs. Imhoff, Vice President of the United States, who goes by her maiden name,
Miss Kamala?
Kamala Harris. She's got 2 Jewish children she adopted. She married a Jewish husband who's got a interesting.
I'm scared to talk about Kamala Harris. I'll let you have that one.
No, she's a witch, and she is a corrupt witch. She's been corrupt her whole life, and she fucked her way to the top.
Oh, Lord.
They used to detail this witch in the LA Times with her sexual escapades. She fucked damn near everybody trying to get up. She used to be a frat hoe when she was at Howard. And she ain't black.
So let's go back to the beginning of her political career when she made a bid for the district attorney of San Francisco in 2003. In 2003, the San Francisco DA's office was occupied by Terrence Hallinan, a Democrat widely considered the country's most progressive prosecutor at the time. Hallinan was widely disliked by the San Francisco Police Department. He cracked down on corruption among the police and city hall officials, which did not set well with them, nor did it set well with the right-wing Kamala Harris, because she touted herself as being sort of a right-winger initially back in her nascence as a politician. Harris built a name for herself among the police by building a cop-friendly campaign against Hallinan. Harris promised to repair the relationship between the police and the DA's office, a relationship that had been strained by Halligan's refusal to turn a blind eye to law enforcement corruption. She was unanimously endorsed by the police union. Oh, gee. Harris's campaign also secured wealthy donors, including San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown, whom Harris had a brief affair with in 1995. Brown was also under investigation for corruption by Halligan. Harris received in total $600,000 in donations, violating campaign finance law in the process and incurring the largest fine for such an offense in the city's history. Her funding, high-profile supporters, and the media smear campaign against Halligan was enough for her to unseat him, stopping the corruption investigations Halligan had launched against the police department and city hall officials. Now that sounds pretty corrupt to me, you know? And that shows you right off the bat that she doesn't blanch whatsoever at breaking the law and twisting the rules and covering up for scumbags.
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana. She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentences to use them as cheap labor for the state of California. And she fought to keep cash bail system in place. That impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris.
Now, once she'd attained the district attorney's office, while she was district attorney, she was enamored with old Willie Brown there, that ugly son of a bitch. I guess she liked him for his personality. I know they used to call Bill Clinton Slick Willie, and Clinton made the remark once that this guy is the real Slick Willie. Willie Brown states, yes, we dated. It was more than 20 years ago. Yes, I may have influenced her career by appointing her to 2 state commissions when I was Assembly Speaker. Kamala accepted 2 appointments from Willie Brown to high-paying part-time state boards, including one she had no training for, while being paid $100,000 a year as a full-time county employee. He gave Harris a brand new BMW and also appointed her to 2 commissions in state government where, according to San Francisco Weekly, she was paid $400,000 over 4 years. One of the positions, an appointment to the California Medical Assistance Commission, paid a $99,000 a year salary for attending 2 meetings a month. So here, she slept her way to the top. Although, I doubt that she did much sleeping. I don't think that they were probably sleeping. They were probably like standing up. Well, he was standing up and she was, So, guys, people, folks, she a hoe. That Cammy, she a hoe.
Never let anyone take your joy from you. I call myself a joyful warrior. Right? Never let anyone take your joy from you. You do what you gotta do. And isn't that a wonderful way to live? To know you have purpose.
Harris was a strong proponent of California's 3 strikes law, which dictates mandatory life sentences for third-time offenders, even if the offenses are minor. And, of course, naturally, the law disproportionately affected non-white folks. And there's the chart there. And as you can see, it really hit the black community pretty hard. Oh, but wait, I thought that she was a champion for the black folks. But, you know, she can't really represent herself as being representative of their causes if she didn't identify as a black woman, because back then she really didn't. She was touting herself as being a right-wing, you know, law and order type. So, I don't know, man. She looks like a chameleon to me, and we're gonna see that later through the video.
Build more schools, less jails. Build more schools, less jails. And we walk around everywhere. Build more schools. We protest. Build more schools, less jails.
Now, also, when she was district attorney, she covered up for high-profile criminals, Ms. Law and Order. During her time as DA, Harris made a habit of protecting high-profile criminals to use as informants and intentionally turning a blind eye to their every crime, up to and including murder. Harris refused to prosecute police informant and career criminal Jorge Luis Sandoval for years. Sandoval was an integral part of a massive drug trafficking operation that dealt in cocaine and methamphetamine. He was repeatedly arrested for his drug crimes, but Harris's DA office did not pursue charges for any of them because of his usefulness. Yeah, probably because he was probably giving her a piece of the pie. Sandoval got off the hook every time, even though his crimes were severe enough to sentence him to life in prison. When Sandoval murdered a 34-year-old Leary Lescue, the FBI stepped in and finally arrested him. And you know somebody was getting a piece of the pie, the drug money. You know, if it weren't her, then somebody was. I mean, you know, guys like that, if they're going to get off and operate with impunity, they got to grease a few palms here and there. And I'll bet you her palm was just really, really greasy. I bet if you shook her hand, you'd have to wipe your hand off on your pants because it'd probably get so much grease on it. I'll bet you. Yep, I would. Now, let's look at a few more of her hijinks as district attorney. She went after the sex workers big time. She did aggressive prostitution sting operations in which female officers would pose as sex workers. Police were then capable of arresting anyone who spoke to the officer with an intent to commit prostitution. And of course, 60% of the men arrested were minorities or Latinos. And it was entirely at the discretion of the police officer as to what constituted, you know, speaking with the intent to commit prostitution. You could probably just say, hi. Hi, you're under arrest. And she covered up for corrupt prosecutors. In 2010, crime lab technician Deborah Madden was found intentionally tampering with evidence produced by a crime lab in which she worked, and she was skimming cocaine. With evidence from the lab compromised, prosecutors were forced to dismiss over 600 drug cases. A leaked memo showed that Harris and her deputies had intentionally withheld this information from defense lawyers, a violation of the U.S. Constitution. So apparently she sees the Constitution as something that gets in her way rather than a guideline for how she should comport herself. And here's the one that really gets me. This is sleazy. She covered for Catholic pedophiles. As district attorney, Harris deliberately concealed information on pedophiles in a Catholic church, protecting them from punishment. I'm assuming priest, you know. When victims pleaded with her to release the record, she still refused. Harris never prosecuted a single priest. Now, as Attorney General of California, 2011 to 2016, covering up for killer cops and rapist cops, Harris completely sidetracked the main police accountability measure that had been vigorously pushed up and down the state by damn near every organization fighting for police reform. In particular, special prosecutors in the cases of police shootings. Folks have been crystal clear that the day-to-day relationship local prosecutors have with police puts victims of police terrorism at a severe disadvantage. And of course, there's an inherent conflict of interest there. She has a record of fighting to keep wrongfully imprisoned in prison, understanding that such offenders are likely innocent and arguing that they should stay in prison for the rest of their lives based on nothing more than technicalities. Oh, but it gets even better because she kept people in prison after they'd served their sentences. Now, how in the world she did that, I don't know, man. You get sentenced for 10 years, you serve 10 years, and she'd keep you in there anyway. She also withheld exculpatory evidence for guys on death row. Based on technicalities. And eventually they had to sue her to release. She had to sue her to release the evidence. Sue her because she was in a sewer. And she was one of the country's most aggressive proponents of civil asset forfeiture. Harris had successfully opposed legislation to reform civil asset forfeiture in 2011. She went on to sponsor a bill to expand civil asset forfeiture in 2015. Now, if you don't know what that is, and most folks don't know what that is, with civil asset forfeiture, the cops can just seize your property, even though you've never been accused of a crime or ever charged with a crime. All they have to do is suspect that the property had something to do with the crime, and they can just take it from you. I had a buddy, he lays tile and Satillo tile, and he would have to drive down to Mexico to get it because Mexico's the only place you can get it. And he was driving back up from Mexico, and he had $5,000 in his pocket. The cops stopped him. They found the $5,000 and just took it. Fortunately for him, he knew somebody. This was in San Antonio. Fortunately for him, he knew somebody. He got his money back. But most folks don't because they just don't have the means to get a lawyer and get it back. So there's Kamala Harris, and she's wanting you to vote for her for president. She's every bit as sleazy and crooked as old Sleepy Joe. And if we elect her president, we can only look forward to 4 more years, hell, maybe 8 more years of what we've had the last 4 years. She must be defeated. She must be defeated. And before you start accusing me of being some old Republican meanie man, I'm not. I do support Donald Trump, but not because I'm some kind of a Trump tard. I support him because he's not them. I'm more of a libertarian myself. I joined the Libertarian Party once, back during Obama's tenure in office. I joined the Libertarian Party, and within 2 weeks, I had the IRS all over my ass. I'd never had any problem with the IRS my whole life. Ran businesses, ran a home office, never had any problem. I joined the Libertarian Party, and 2 weeks later, man, they're all over me. I mean, this government in Washington is corrupt, folks, and we've got to do something to stop it, and I don't really know what to do, but I'm sure as hell not going to vote for somebody like this. No way in hell.